Introduction. Negotiation is one of those rare life skills that quietly dictates how far a person can go in their career, relationships, and personal goals. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are negotiating. It happens when you convince your child to do their homework, when you ask your boss for a raise, when you persuade a client to choose your service over another, or even when you are deciding where to have dinner with a friend. Life is a series of conversations where people are trying to get what they want, and those who master the art of negotiation are the ones who consistently come out ahead. Negotiation is not about winning at the expense of someone else. Many people shy away from it because they associate it with manipulation, conflict, or discomfort. The truth is that effective negotiation is about creating alignment between your goals and the needs of the other party. It is the skill of presenting your desires in a way that feels fair, reasonable, and appealing to the other person. The most successful negotiators do not leave a trail of resentment behind them. Instead, they walk away with agreements that both sides can live with and relationships that are stronger than before. Think about the last time you truly wanted something from someone. Perhaps it was an opportunity, a discount, or simply their cooperation. In that moment, your ability to communicate, to listen, and to influence was far more valuable than any degree or certificate. Negotiation is not just a business skill. It is a human skill. The difference between people who get what they want and those who walk away empty-handed often comes down to who understands the psychology of negotiation and who does not. What makes negotiation so powerful is that it relies on understanding people, not just processes. Facts and logic are important, but emotions drive decisions. Most of the time, people do not act based on spreadsheets and statistics. They act based on how something makes them feel. A good negotiator knows how to recognize fears, desires, and motivations that are often unspoken. They read body language, listen for hesitation, and sense the emotions behind the words. They know that sometimes the deal is not about money, power, or material gain. It is about recognition, security, or the need to be understood. Learning to negotiate is like unlocking a secret door to influence. It transforms your interactions. Suddenly, conversations that used to intimidate you become opportunities. Instead of fearing rejection, you become curious about how to present your perspective in a way that resonates. You stop walking away from the table feeling powerless and start shaping outcomes to match your goals. It is a confidence that spills into every aspect of life, because you know that no matter the situation, you have the tools to advocate for yourself effectively. This book is your guide to mastering that skill. You will discover that negotiation is not a talent reserved for a chosen few. It is a science you can learn and an art you can practice. With the right approach, you can walk into any conversation, whether with a colleague, client, family member, or even a stranger, and feel prepared to secure the outcome you desire. By the time you finish this book, you will understand not only how to ask for what you want, but how to get it without damaging relationships or compromising your integrity. Negotiation is power, but it is a quiet kind of power, the kind that does not demand attention, yet bend situations in your favor. The world rewards those who can communicate their value, stand firm when it matters, and create solutions where others see dead ends. This book will show you how to do exactly that. Chapter 1. Understanding the Psychology of Negotiation. Negotiation begins long before words are spoken. It begins in the mind, in the subtle dance of human psychology that dictates how people respond to each other. To become an effective negotiator, you must first understand that every conversation you have is influenced by invisible forces, beliefs, fears, desires, and perceptions that shape how people listen, react, and decide. At its heart, negotiation is a human interaction, and humans are emotional beings before they are rational ones. Even the most calculated business executive or discipline manager makes decisions based on emotion, often justifying them with logic afterward. This is why two people can be presented with the exact same offer, yet one accepts it happily while the other rejects it. Their emotional states, personal values, and hidden motivations are never identical. As a negotiator, your first task is to read these invisible elements, because no amount of clever wording can succeed if it fails to speak to the emotions driving the other person. One of the most powerful truths about negotiation is that people want to feel understood. They want to feel that their fears, needs, and desires are acknowledged. This is where empathy becomes your greatest weapon. A skilled negotiator listens more than they speak, not because they are shy, but because they are collecting information that will guide the outcome. When you allow someone to express themselves fully, when you notice the hesitation in their tone or the excitement in their eyes, you gain insight into what truly matters to them. And once you know what matters to them, you hold the key to influencing their decision. Another critical psychological factor is perception. In negotiation, reality matters less than the way reality is perceived. People respond to what they believe is happening, even if that belief is incomplete or distorted. If someone believes they are getting a fair deal, they will agree enthusiastically. If they believe they are being taken advantage of, even a generous offer may be rejected. Successful negotiators manage perception by carefully framing their proposals. They highlight the benefits that align with the other person's priorities and address objections before they take root. They understand that how an offer is presented can be as important as the offer itself. Equally important is the understanding of human bias. Everyone carries biases into a negotiation: confirmation bias, loss aversion, and the desire to protect their ego are just a few. For example, people fear losing something they already have more than they are motivated by gaining something new. A negotiator who recognizes this can frame proposals in terms of avoiding loss rather than chasing gain, making the offer far more persuasive. Similarly, protecting someone's sense of dignity and self-worth can mean the difference between a stubborn refusal and a willing agreement. People rarely respond well to pressure that threatens their ego, but they are far more likely to cooperate when they feel respected and valued. Trust is another invisible currency in the psychology of negotiation. Without trust, even the most attractive deal can crumble. Trust is built through honesty, consistency, and the subtle cues that communicate reliability. A negotiator who keeps promises, admits when they do not know something, and treats the other party with respect creates an environment where agreements can flourish. On the other hand, even a small hint of deception can trigger defensiveness, suspicion, and resistance. Understanding the psychology of negotiation requires recognizing your own emotional landscape. Confidence is critical, but so is self-control. Negotiations often involve tension, and it is easy to become reactive or defensive. A negotiator who loses their composure hands over their power because emotional outbursts cloud judgment and signal weakness. The best negotiators remain calm even when provoked, steady even when pressured. They know that patience is a form of power, and silence can be as persuasive as words. The foundation of every successful negotiation lies in mastering these psychological principles. You are not just exchanging words. You are navigating emotions, perceptions, and unspoken fears. When you see the negotiation as a map of the human mind, rather than a battlefield of opposing wills, you begin to move with strategy rather than force. And the negotiator who understands people deeply will always have an advantage over the one who only understands numbers. Negotiation is also about mastering the subtle art of timing. Even the most compelling argument can fall flat if presented at the wrong moment. Timing is not just about when you speak, but when you listen, when you pause, and when you make your move. Human attention and receptivity are fluid, and a skilled negotiator understands how to sense the right moment to present an idea. A pause before responding can give the impression of careful consideration, which adds weight to your words. Similarly, waiting until the other person feels heard before offering your solution creates a sense of collaboration rather than confrontation. Equally important is your ability to read nonverbal cues. Words can be carefully crafted, but the body often tells the truth. A flicker in the eyes, a shift in posture, or a change in tone can reveal hesitation, excitement, or resistance. Learning to notice these signals allows you to adjust your approach in real time. For instance, if someone leans back and folds their arms, it often indicates defensiveness or discomfort. This is your signal to step back, ask more questions, and create a safer emotional space rather than pushing forward with demands. Mirroring and rapport-building techniques also play a vital role in understanding negotiation psychology. People are more likely to agree with those they feel are similar to them, or who get them. Subtly matching the other person's tone, pace, and energy can create an unconscious bond, making them more receptive to your ideas. This is not about manipulation. It is about creating a rhythm of connection that fosters trust and openness. Understanding that most people enter negotiations with some level of fear or uncertainty gives you a unique edge. They may fear losing control, missing out on a better deal, or being taken advantage of. By acknowledging and soothing those fears, you remove resistance. Phrases like, "I understand why you feel that way," or "I see where you're coming from," build psychological safety, which lowers defenses and makes cooperation more likely. A truly skilled negotiator also knows that winning does not always mean the other person must lose. This is where the concept of a win-win outcome becomes powerful. When both parties leave the table feeling like they gained something, the agreement is not only reached but also maintained with goodwill. Achieving this requires deep empathy, creativity, and an ability to see beyond your immediate wants to understand the larger picture of mutual benefit. This deep psychological approach to negotiation transforms the process from a battle of wills into a dance of understanding. By learning to read people, respond to their emotions, and guide the conversation with patience and insight, you elevate yourself from simply asking for what you want to becoming someone who naturally draws cooperation from others. Mastering this foundation of human behavior is the first step toward becoming a negotiator who consistently gets results while leaving relationships stronger than before. Chapter 2: The Art of Influence and How to Build Leverage. Understanding human behavior is one thing, but turning that understanding into actual influence is what separates average negotiators from those who consistently achieve their desired outcomes. Influence is not about force or manipulation. It is the subtle ability to guide the thoughts, emotions, and actions of others in a direction that benefits both parties. Influence begins with credibility. People are naturally drawn to those they trust, and trust is a currency in negotiation that cannot be faked. To build credibility, one must establish a reputation for honesty, consistency, and reliability. When people sense that your words align with your actions, they are more likely to follow your lead. Small interactions before and during the negotiation contribute to this trust-building process. Arriving prepared, knowing the facts, and demonstrating that you have considered the other party's perspective shows that you respect their position and are serious about finding a solution. Another cornerstone of influence is understanding the power of emotional connection. Logical arguments often fall short if they are not paired with emotional resonance. Humans are not purely rational beings. Decisions are frequently made from the heart and later justified with the mind. A skilled negotiator taps into this truth by creating an emotional bridge. This might mean showing genuine empathy for the other person's challenges, sharing a personal story that aligns with the situation, or framing your request in a way that appeals to their values and desires. Leverage, on the other hand, is the quiet force that gives your influence weight. Leverage is not about dominance. It is about positioning yourself in a way that makes saying yes to you the most appealing option. True leverage comes from preparation. When you know what the other party needs, what they fear losing, and what alternatives they might have, you can shape your approach to highlight why your solution is the most favorable. Sometimes leverage comes from information, such as knowing market conditions or competitor offers. Other times, it comes from relationships or timing, like understanding that the other party is under pressure to reach an agreement quickly. Building influence also involves mastering the subtle art of framing. How a proposal is presented often matters more than the proposal itself. People respond differently to the same idea based on how it is introduced. For example, asking someone to invest in a project frames it as an opportunity, whereas asking them to spend on a project frames it as a cost. Skilled negotiators consciously frame their words to highlight benefits, minimize perceived risks, and align with the other person's worldview. Social proof and authority are also powerful levers of influence. People tend to follow the lead of those who seem knowledgeable or who are backed by others they respect. Referencing successful outcomes with similar partners, showing testimonials, or presenting industry data can significantly strengthen your position. However, it must be done subtly. Overt bragging or pressure can backfire. The key is to create an aura of competence and reliability without appearing arrogant. Equally important is the concept of reciprocity. Human beings are wired to return favors and respond to generosity. By offering something of value first, whether it is a small concession, a piece of useful information, or a gesture of goodwill, you plant a seed in the other person's mind that compels them to respond in kind. This is a timeless principle of influence that, when used ethically, creates momentum toward agreement without coercion. Influence and leverage are about alignment rather than opposition. Instead of seeing negotiation as a tug of war, a master negotiator views it as an art of gentle redirection, where the other person willingly moves toward your desired outcome because they feel understood, respected, and empowered. When credibility, emotional intelligence, and strategic leverage come together, doors open that would otherwise remain closed. True negotiation mastery involves reading the room, detecting the emotional undercurrents, and recognizing the invisible power shifts that happen during an interaction. Many people enter a negotiation believing that the person with the loudest voice or the most aggressive stance has the upper hand, but experienced negotiators know that quiet observation often yields greater control. Silence itself can be a form of leverage. When you pause intentionally after making a point, it puts the other party in a position where they feel the need to fill the space, often revealing their thoughts, hesitations, or hidden priorities. Another crucial aspect of influence is flexibility. While preparation and leverage give you strength, rigidity can destroy your chances of success. Influence flows more naturally when you can adapt to the evolving energy of conversation. For instance, if you notice that the other person is resistant to logical arguments, shifting to storytelling or offering a vision of mutual benefit can soften their stance. Influence is less about forcing your will and more about guiding the conversation toward common ground where your goals align with theirs. Power dynamics are also an unspoken yet significant part of this chapter. In every negotiation, there is a real or perceived imbalance of power. Perhaps one party has more resources, or one is in a position of authority. Skilled negotiators recognize that power is not always about who holds the obvious advantages. It is often about who has the most options. When you walk into a negotiation with clear alternatives, such as other clients, suppliers, or opportunities, you negotiate from a position of quiet strength. This confidence is felt by the other party, even if unspoken, and it naturally tilts the dynamic in your favor. Understanding timing is another advanced layer of influence. A proposal made at the wrong moment can fall flat, while the same idea presented when the other party is emotionally or circumstantially ready can lead to instant agreement. Timing often involves patience and the ability to sense when the other side is at a decision-making peak. It might mean holding back an offer until they express a certain pain point or waiting for an external condition to shift in your favor. This chapter has shown us that influence is amplified when you can enter the negotiation with clarity about both your minimum acceptable outcome and your ideal target. This internal clarity prevents emotional reactions from derailing your strategy. When people sense that you're not desperate, they feel your confidence and often respond with greater respect. It is why preparation and mindset go hand in hand with tactical leverage. It is important to recognize that influence is often a long game. Some negotiations are resolved in one meeting, but many are the result of trust and positioning that have been nurtured over time. Every interaction, no matter how small, is part of the negotiation. A casual conversation that builds rapport, a small favor done in advance, or a well-timed insight shared in passing can set the stage for agreement long before the formal discussion begins. When you treat negotiation as a relationship rather than a battle, influence flows more naturally and your leverage becomes sustainable rather than situational. Mastering influence and leverage means embracing the subtleties of human behavior, communication, and timing. It is the quiet art of leading others to a conclusion that feels like their own choice while aligning perfectly with your desired outcome. This combination of preparation, emotional awareness, and strategic patience ensures that your negotiations consistently end in your favor without creating resentment or tension. Chapter 3: Communication and the Psychology of Persuasion. No matter how well prepared you are or how much leverage you possess, the ability to convey your intentions and influence the other person's emotions and decisions is what ultimately determines whether you will get what you want. Communication and negotiation is not just about what you say. It is about how you say it, when you say it, and the subtle signals you send through your tone, body language, and choice of words. The first layer of communication and negotiation is the art of active listening. Most people enter a negotiation thinking that talking will get them what they want, but seasoned negotiators know that listening is the true key to persuasion. When you listen deeply, without rushing to speak or impose your agenda, you gain access to the hidden motivations, fears, and desires of the other party. Every sigh, pause, or hesitation can reveal more than their carefully chosen words. By showing genuine interest and reflecting their concerns back to them, you build rapport and lower their natural defenses. People are more likely to agree with someone who they feel truly understands them. Equally important is the skill of framing. In negotiations, how an idea is presented often matters more than the idea itself. If you propose a deal in a way that highlights the benefits for the other party first, you make it easier for them to embrace your terms. Psychological research shows that people respond more favorably when they feel a solution is designed with their interest in mind, even if the ultimate benefit leans toward you. Framing also involves the ability to reword objections. Instead of seeing a no as a rejection, a skilled negotiator reframes it as an opportunity to uncover the hidden yes beneath it. For example, if someone says your price is too high, responding with a calm exploration of value rather than defensiveness opens the door to compromise. Nonverbal communication carries enormous weight in negotiation. Your posture, eye contact, facial expressions, and even the pace of your breathing can send signals that either strengthen or weaken your position. Confidence without arrogance is magnetic. It communicates that you are in control of yourself and the situation. Small adjustments, like leaning forward to show engagement or maintaining a calm and steady tone during tense moments, can influence the other party on a subconscious level. Often, people do not remember the exact words you used, but they will remember how your presence made them feel safe, respected, or compelled to agree. Another critical part of communication is emotional regulation. Negotiation can trigger frustration, excitement, fear, or impatience, and unchecked emotions can derail even the best strategies. When you remain composed under pressure, you not only avoid mistakes, but also gain a psychological edge. The person who stays calm while others become emotional often becomes the unspoken leader of the discussion. This control over your emotional expression allows you to guide the conversation with subtlety and authority. Persuasion and negotiation also taps into universal psychological triggers. People are naturally influenced by reciprocity, scarcity, authority, and social proof. When you offer something of value first, whether it is a concession, information, or even a gesture of goodwill, the other party feels an instinctive desire to respond in kind. Highlighting that an opportunity is limited can increase its perceived value, and demonstrating credibility or referencing respected sources can solidify your influence. Understanding these human tendencies allows you to design your communication so that it resonates on a deeper, almost subconscious level. The essence of communication and negotiation lies in creating a bridge rather than a battlefield. Even when your ultimate goal is self-serving, the other party should feel that the solution is collaborative. Persuasive communication makes them believe that agreeing with you is not a loss, but a shared victory. This sense of partnership, combined with clarity, calmness, and psychological insight, transforms conversations into agreements and objections into opportunities. The negotiator who masters communication does not just win deals. They build relationships that keep doors open for future victories. True negotiation mastery comes from understanding that every person you interact with brings not only their desires and goals to the table, but also their insecurities, biases, and emotional patterns. When you learn to read these invisible layers, you begin to see negotiation not as a confrontation, but as a dance where your timing and emotional intelligence determine whether the other person leans toward or away from your desired outcome. One of the most overlooked elements of communication in negotiation is pacing. Too many people rush to secure an agreement, unaware that moving too fast triggers the natural resistance most people carry. Humans are wired to protect themselves from perceived threats or losses. If they feel cornered or pressured, even if your offer is good, they instinctively pull back. By pacing your communication and giving strategic pauses, you allow the other party to feel in control, even as you guide the interaction. A well-timed silence after a statement or offer can speak louder than words, allowing tension to work in your favor and prompting the other side to fill the gap with concessions or useful information. Mirroring and emotional alignment also play a significant role in persuasion. Subtly reflecting the other person's language, tone, and pace makes them feel understood on a subconscious level. This does not mean mimicking them in a way that feels forced. Instead, it is about creating harmony in the emotional energy of the conversation. When people feel emotionally in sync with you, they are far more likely to trust you and soften their resistance. Skilled negotiators are like emotional chameleons. They can adapt their presence to make the other party feel safe and open. Another powerful aspect of communication is the story you tell. Humans are wired for narrative. We make sense of the world through stories, not just facts. In negotiation, presenting your position as a story, one where the other party can see themselves as a beneficiary or even a hero, creates emotional resonance that pure logic often cannot. For instance, instead of simply presenting numbers or terms, painting a picture of the positive impact your proposal will have on their life, business, or goals taps into their imagination and emotions. A person moved by a story often agrees to terms that a spreadsheet alone could never secure. Understanding and anticipating objections is a core element of persuasive communication. Every objection is not a wall. It is a window into the other party's priorities and fears. Treating objections as opportunities rather than setbacks allows you to explore their deeper motivations. When you respond with empathy instead of defensiveness, you show that you respect their perspective, and this softens resistance. Over time, the conversation shifts from you versus them to both of you against the problem, which is the mindset where most agreements are born. The unspoken power of credibility cannot be overstated. People are more likely to agree with someone they perceive as knowledgeable, confident, and trustworthy. The way you carry yourself, the clarity of your speech, and your ability to remain composed under pressure all feed into your perceived authority. Confidence is magnetic, but it is most effective when combined with humility and genuine understanding of the other side. This balance of authority and empathy is the heart of effective communication and negotiation. It makes people want to say yes without feeling like they have lost anything in the process. Chapter 4. Overcoming resistance. Every negotiation, no matter how friendly or professional it appears on the surface, involves a dance with resistance. This resistance can stem from fear, pride, uncertainty, or the natural human instinct to protect one's own interests. Understanding how to navigate these psychological barriers without creating hostility is the key to moving from stalemate to success. Resistance often shows up in subtle forms before it becomes obvious. A person might stall with vague answers, deflect with humor, or even shift topics to avoid giving a firm response. At other times, it is more overt, a firm no, a flat expression, or a sudden withdrawal from the conversation. Many inexperienced negotiators see this as the end of the road, but seasoned negotiators understand that resistance is not rejection. It is a signal that the other party's emotional or logical needs have not yet been fully addressed. Instead of pushing harder or retreating, the most effective response is curiosity and empathy. When someone resists, they are revealing a story they are telling themselves about risk, loss, or mistrust. Your task is to gently uncover that story. Breaking through resistance starts with listening, not arguing. The more someone feels heard and understood, the less they feel the need to defend themselves. A calm, attentive presence disarms tension far faster than pressure ever will. Often, when people resist, what they're truly expressing is a fear of regret or making the wrong decision. By asking thoughtful questions and giving space for them to articulate their concerns, you turn the negotiation from a battle into a collaboration. This shift from confrontation to partnership allows you to find solutions that satisfy both parties without the need for force. Another crucial element in overcoming resistance is reframing. People get stuck when they perceive a situation as a loss or a threat to their autonomy. By changing the frame of the conversation, you can help them see the opportunity instead of the danger. For example, instead of asking someone to agree to your terms, you can guide them to see how the agreement advances their own goals or protects them from future challenges. This reframing transforms the emotional experience of the negotiation, lowering resistance, because people naturally lean toward choices that feel like self-empowerment rather than concession. Patience also plays an indispensable role. Many negotiations fail not because the terms are unfavorable, but because one party grows impatient and pushes for an immediate outcome. Resistance thrives under pressure. It withers when it is met with steady confidence and controlled pacing. By allowing moments of silence, giving the other party time to process, and returning to key points calmly, you demonstrate that you are not desperate for the deal. This quiet strength encourages the other side to lower their defenses, as they subconsciously recognize that you are both in pursuit of a mutual win rather than trying to force a victory. Strategic concessions can also break down stubborn barriers. Resistance often softens when the other party feels they have gained a win, no matter how small. Offering a concession that costs you little but signals respect for their position creates momentum and reciprocity. Human beings are wired to respond to generosity. When they receive a gesture of goodwill, they often feel compelled to reciprocate in some way. These concessions, when timed carefully, can open the door to larger agreements that once felt impossible. Belief in your own value is the foundation of overcoming resistance. Negotiators who approach conversations with hesitation or self-doubt inadvertently strengthen the other party's walls. But when you operate from a place of quiet certainty, your energy shifts the dynamic. People respond to the unspoken confidence of someone who knows their worth and the value of what they are offering. It communicates that you are not merely seeking approval, but presenting an opportunity that the other side would be wise to accept. By mastering the art of breaking through resistance, you transform negotiation from a tug-of-war into a journey of alignment. Walls become doors, and conversations that once seemed locked in stalemate start to move fluidly toward resolution. This chapter is about more than strategy. It is about cultivating the mindset and presence that make others feel safe enough to lower their guard and step willingly toward your vision of agreement. True mastery in negotiation requires understanding that resistance is rarely about the facts of the offer itself. It is about the feelings and perceived risks that the offer stirs within the other person. Humans are emotional decision-makers long before they are logical ones. And if these emotions remain unacknowledged, resistance hardens like stone. One profound way to dissolve resistance is to master emotional mirroring. When the other person feels frustrated, hesitant, or anxious, meeting them with calm acknowledgement rather than forceful persuasion creates psychological safety. Simple phrases like, "I understand why this might feel like a big step," or "I can see that this is important to you," are not concessions. They are bridges. Emotional mirroring validates the inner experience of the other party, reducing their instinct to guard themselves. Over time, this validation builds trust, and trust is the antidote to resistance. Another deeper technique is uncovering the hidden motivations behind the pushback. Every no has a story behind it. Maybe the person fears loss of control, worries about judgment from peers, or doubts their own ability to manage the change your offer represents. By drawing these fears into the open gently, through active listening and thoughtful questioning, you strip them of their invisible power. Often, people do not even realize the exact reason they are resisting until someone gives them space to articulate it. As they speak, the emotional charge weakens, and a door opens for new possibilities. Metaphor and storytelling also become powerful tools in these moments. A story bypasses the analytical walls that facts alone cannot penetrate. When someone resists, telling a brief story of a similar situation where a decision led to growth or avoided risk allows them to visualize themselves in the narrative. Stories make potential outcomes feel real and relatable, and they plant seeds of curiosity where defensiveness once stood. Timing is the invisible thread that runs through the entire process of overcoming resistance. A skilled negotiator senses when to press forward, when to pause, and when to pivot. Silence is as powerful as speech. When you present an idea and allow a pause to hang in the air, the other party often begins negotiating with themselves internally. If you rush to fill that silence with more arguments or explanations, you interrupt that delicate process. Learning to be comfortable with the discomfort of silence is one of the most advanced skills in breaking through stubborn resistance. Empathy without attachment is also essential. While deep understanding and emotional connection are key, over-attachment to the outcome can lead to overexertion and frustration. The moment the other party senses desperation, resistance strengthens because they intuitively feel they have leverage. Maintaining an inner posture of calm self-assurance, being fully present but not needy, creates a magnetic pull. It communicates that you are here to serve a mutual win, not to beg for agreement. In long or high-stakes negotiations, resistance can resurface multiple times, like waves crashing against the shore. Expecting this and remaining steady prevents emotional exhaustion. Instead of seeing each resurgence of resistance as a failure, the expert negotiator treats it as a natural rhythm. Each cycle of resistance and resolution deepens understanding, clears away fear, and builds the foundation for a lasting agreement. The art of breaking through resistance is about shifting the environment of the conversation from guarded tension to open possibility. When the other party feels that their fears are seen, their interests are respected, and their autonomy is intact, their walls come down. Negotiation then ceases to feel like a battle, and instead becomes a joint journey toward a solution both sides can embrace. True power in negotiation is never in overpowering the other. It is in guiding them gently to a place where saying yes feels safe, logical, and even self-chosen. Chapter 5. Sealing the deal. Closing a negotiation is far more than reaching verbal consensus. It is about creating a sense of ownership, satisfaction, and emotional alignment, so that both parties walk away feeling empowered, not cornered. This is the point where all the listening, positioning, and careful navigation of emotions converge into a tangible outcome. Sealing a deal begins with clarity. Ambiguity is the silent enemy of lasting agreements. People agree to what they understand fully and resist what feels uncertain. At this stage, the skilled negotiator takes time to summarize every key point, reflecting the conversation back to the other party in simple, precise language. Phrases like, "So here's what we've agreed on," followed by a clear recap, provide reassurance. This act of restating not only confirms alignment, but also surfaces any hidden doubts before they can fester. It transforms a tentative handshake into a firm and mutual commitment. Emotional closure is just as important as logistical closure. A deal might look perfect on paper, but if the other party feels uneasy, manipulated, or rushed, it will not hold. People honor agreements they feel good about. This is why creating a moment of positive reinforcement during the close is vital. Expressing genuine appreciation for their time, acknowledging their effort, or highlighting how the outcome meets their needs builds a lasting psychological bridge. It turns the memory of the negotiation from a battle into a collaborative success story. In many cases, the final hesitation surfaces just before commitment. This is the last-minute doubt, a natural defense mechanism as the brain confronts the reality of change. Expert negotiators expect this moment and meet it with patience instead of pressure. Instead of pushing harder, they create reassurance by revisiting benefits, reminding the other party of their own stated goals, and framing the decision as a step toward their best interest. Calm reinforcement of their autonomy helps melt the final layer of resistance and makes the yes feel self-directed rather than imposed. Another critical element of sealing the deal lies in future-proofing the agreement. Negotiation does not end when both parties shake hands or sign a contract. It extends into the relationship that follows. Clearly outlining next steps, responsibilities, and timelines prevents confusion and ensures that momentum is not lost. A deal that lacks follow-through breeds regret, and regret leads to reversals. By defining immediate actions and keeping the first steps light and achievable, you anchor the agreement in progress from the very beginning. Leaving the other party with dignity and respect is the silent key to repeated success. People talk, and reputations are built on how one makes others feel at the negotiation table. Even if your terms are favorable, the other person should leave feeling like a winner. Gratitude and acknowledgement act as invisible signatures on the agreement, turning transactional outcomes into relational capital. This approach transforms one deal into the foundation for future opportunities because the other party trusts that you are a fair partner. Sealing the deal is about emotional closure for yourself as well. Walking away with a sense of inner satisfaction rather than obsession over leverage or concessions keeps your energy aligned for future negotiations. A true master of negotiation sees every closed deal not as the end of a battle, but as the beginning of a relationship, whether personal, professional, or situational. The ultimate goal is not just to get what you want. It is to do so in a way that strengthens connections, enhances your credibility, and opens doors that might otherwise have remained shut. A successful close leaves no loose ends, no lingering doubts, and no emotional bruises. Both sides depart with clarity and confidence, carrying a memory of mutual respect. In the end, the power of negotiation is not measured in victories over others, but in the ability to create outcomes that last because they were built on trust, understanding, and the artful balance of strategy and empathy. True mastery of sealing the deal goes beyond the final handshake or the signature on a contract. It is an art of leaving both parties feeling emotionally fulfilled, respected, and confident in the path ahead. In the quiet moments after a successful negotiation, a skilled negotiator knows that the true work lies in reinforcing trust and ensuring that the energy of the agreement flows smoothly into action. Often, people underestimate the importance of how the conclusion of a negotiation is framed. Closing a deal abruptly, without emotional acknowledgement, leaves a residue of doubt. But when the end is slow, deliberate, and mindful, it sends a message that the process was collaborative, not combative. This is why, at the very end, returning to the human side of the interaction matters as much as the strategic. A simple gesture, expressing gratitude for the time, effort, and openness shown, cements a memory of fairness and professionalism in the other party's mind. The follow-up phase is another subtle, yet powerful part of the close. After the deal is finalized, sending a recap message or follow-up document that outlines what was agreed upon not only reinforces clarity, but also signals reliability. It shows that you value the other person's peace of mind and take the agreement seriously. Many negotiations fail long after they are won because no one nurtured the trust created in the room. But when you carry that trust forward with clear communication, you transform a single agreement into a long-term partnership. Equally important is the emotional release that comes with closure. Negotiations can be mentally and emotionally draining, especially when stakes are high. The skilled negotiator walks away with grace, not gloating, because they understand that humility and composure preserve their energy and reputation. They have learned that the most powerful wins are quiet, the kind that leave doors open for future collaborations rather than closed by arrogance or overconfidence. Sealing the deal is also about timing, knowing when to push, when to pause, and when to let silence do the work separates novices from masters. In the final moments, hesitation often lingers like fog. Rushing to fill it with pressure can backfire, but allowing a measured pause gives the other party space to mentally and emotionally commit to their decision. This is why many great negotiators rely on silence as much as words. They understand that true agreement grows in the space where reflection meets trust. When all these elements align, clarity, emotional acknowledgement, follow-through, timing, and humility, the final deal becomes more than transaction. It becomes a bridge that can carry future opportunities. People remember not just what they agreed to, but how they felt in the moment of agreement. That feeling is the currency of lasting influence, and it is the hallmark of someone who has truly mastered the power of negotiation. Conclusion. The true art of negotiation does not end when the words, "we have a deal," are spoken. It lingers in the subtle imprint you leave on the other person's heart and mind. Negotiation, at its core, is not about domination, coercion, or manipulation. It is about connection, understanding, and the delicate dance between two sets of needs. When you walk away from the table having secured what you wanted while leaving the other party feeling seen, heard, and respected, you have achieved something greater than a simple agreement. You have created lasting influence. The reflection that comes after a successful negotiation is where real growth takes root. Each interaction teaches you about your own patience, your triggers, and your strengths. It reveals how emotion and logic can coexist in balance when handled with care. The quiet after the deal allows you to appreciate the beauty of restraint, the power of silence, and the impact of empathy. It is in this space that you realize negotiation is not a skill used occasionally in boardrooms or market stalls. It is a philosophy that can transform the way you live, lead, and love. To master negotiation is to master human connection. You learn that people are rarely moved by facts alone. They're moved by stories, emotions, and the assurance that they are not being taken advantage of. You learn that true strength lies in patience, that listening often opens more doors than speaking, and that the timing of your words can carry more weight than the words themselves. Most importantly, you learn that every yes is earned, and every no can become an opportunity for understanding rather than defeat. As you step into the world armed with the principles shared in this book, imagine each negotiation not as a battle to be won, but as a bridge to be built. Whether you're seeking a raise, closing a business deal, navigating a personal relationship, or simply trying to get someone to see things from your perspective, remember that the foundation of every successful negotiation is respect. Respect for yourself, for the other party, and for the delicate space where two different worlds meet. If you carry these lessons into your daily life, you will discover that negotiation is not just about getting what you want. It is about creating outcomes that feel like victories to everyone involved. And when that happens, you no longer walk away from the table with just a deal. You walk away with trust, with influence, and with the quiet confidence that you can shape your world one conversation at a time.